I did not lock it.
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
What are you doing in here?
Eating.
What are you eating?
Candy.
Nice. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. We are finally home. We're finally home with Kendall, who has been in the hospital for almost the last 3 weeks.
Me.
Kendall, how does it feel to be home finally?
Good.
Yeah? You look fan-freaking-tastic, dude. Complete rock star. Is it nice to be back in your own room?
Yeah.
Instead of a hospital room? There's no doggies here, though. But you've got about 600 of them up there. Now, there is a lot to get caught up on. We haven't made a video in the last couple of weeks because there really wasn't a lot to talk about. I'll catch you up on where things are at and all that kind of stuff. But Kendall ended up there for almost 3 weeks, which turned out to be like her longest admission yet in over a year.
18 days.
Yeah, 18 days. We were kind of just waiting for things to happen, and we thought she was coming home, and then she wasn't, and Brandy and I were trying to plan switching out, and I was home with the girls here, and she was at the and there wasn't a lot to talk about, to be completely honest. Nothing interesting. So to recap as to where we are now, you know, we took Kendall into the hospital, to the emergency room late one night with a fever and abdominal pains, which sort of freaked me out because we have had that situation before, which resulted in an emergency surgery, and she had a closed loop bowel obstruction, and it was like a whole thing. So we went in, we did all the scans, kind of ruled out a bunch of things. Everything looked great. And then this site around her G-tube, her skin started to get red and irritated and inflamed. Sort of day after day, it progressively got worse, and we figured out that she had cellulitis, which is a skin infection. So that was causing the fever. That was causing her pain. It can be very painful. And she ended up on a morphine pump for, I don't know, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And we just had to kind of wait it out. Her immune system, her ANC count, if you're familiar with some of this kind of stuff, was at 0, like completely no immune system from the chemo treatment she had gotten the previous week. Which is why she ended up with this cellulitis. She ended up with a bacterial infection, and her body couldn't fight it, so it just sort of took over and spread in that area. And we literally just had to kind of wait around for her immune system counts to come back up till her body could fight it on its own. Now, keep in mind, this whole time she's on antibiotics. They're treating it with antibiotics. I think it was 3 different antibiotics they were using to try to deal with this. And they knew they weren't going to fight it off and overcome it with the antibiotics. It was just to sort of keep it at bay, keep it under control, and wait for her body to be able to fight it on its own. I mean, that's literally all you can do, is just kind of hurry up and wait. And then her immune system comes up, everything looks good, and we thought she was going to get discharged and come home. And then it was like the night before Brandy and Kendall were going to come home, she ended up with another fever, which automatically keeps her there for at least another 24 hours. But it's like, why did she suddenly spike another fever? And then there was another fever and another fever. So then it was like back to making sure that there was no other problems, issues, concerns before discharging her. And that kept her there for almost another 3 weeks until everything sort of leveled out and chilled. And we think that fever, that secondary fever coming on, was just an immune response of her immune system coming back up and trying to fight off this infection on its own and that sort of thing. But now she's home, no fevers, no issues, cellulitis, infections, all that stuff is done and over with. She's still on an antibiotic here, making sure that we just kind of cover the last few days of that sort of thing. But yeah, she's doing super well, and we're like really thankful to have her home. Now, I thought that since this was just sort of a quick update video recap and wasn't a whole lot to talk about, I'd get you guys to ask questions on Instagram and YouTube and that sort of thing. So I have a bunch of those to answer, and there's some in here specifically for Kendall, and I'll let her answer those. But let's get into some of the questions. Okay, BD92 asks if we're gonna go on a Make-A-Wish trip when treatments are over. And to be honest, I don't really know. Maybe, probably. I don't think we've even been in touch with them at all. It's kind of been the least of our worries at this point, and like we'll cross that bridge at some point, but nothing is planned at this point. Iwa, sorry, I'm really bad at pronouncing some of these usernames. How was your oldest daughter coping with this stressful situation? Cameron, who is our oldest daughter, is 12, and she is incredible. She's just an amazing kid. And to be honest, we have really recently been like stressed over ourselves focusing on her, and we've made a really big commitment in the last several months to try to focus even more on the other kids individually, both on Cameron, our oldest, and Hannah, our youngest, who is 2.5, almost 3 now. But they are a handful, and Cameron in particular kind of gets the short end of the deal because she's a bit older, because she's so capable and she's so self-sufficient that it's all about Kendall and her illness and hospital stuff and her needs, and Hannah and her needs, and it's all about Kendall and Hannah, and Cameron kind of gets left out. So we recognize that, we know that, and we've been like very aware of that since the beginning. So when we get the time and the moments to spend really with Cameron and focus on her, we make sure we do that. But she seems to be handling it quite well. And again, she's a really awesome, really amazing kid. So thank you for keeping Cameron in mind as well. Now, there was quite a few questions in here about how Kendall is doing school, and this has changed since the last time we talked about it. So previously, she was part of a homebound program through our local school, the school that she was attending, and they would send a teacher here to our house, and she would spend several hours at a time with Kendall doing schoolwork and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, it wasn't really working well because of our schedule, Kendall's schedule, and even the teacher's schedule, quite honestly, because we spent so much time at the hospital, the teacher couldn't be there, and a lot of times maybe she could have done some virtual stuff there, but she was, asleep for a week on morphine and incoherent and not able to do school at all. Really, honestly, like not even something we were concerned about. When you go through these treatments like immunotherapy that are extremely painful, extremely just brutal on her, on us as parents, the last thing we're worried about is if her math work is getting done. Like, it's her health first and that sort of thing, and then we worry about school later. So that wasn't working out and then the teacher is a full-time teacher, so she only had some afternoons, and then it got into parent-teacher conferences and all this thing that she had to do, so she couldn't come here. And so weren't able to do enough hours for the school to continue to do it. So we're now in a full virtual program, which has actually worked out quite a bit better. We were hesitant and didn't really want to do it initially, but it has worked out really well because now she can do it any time of the day, no matter where we are. She does it in the car sometimes on our way to the hospital because it's a 2.5-hour drive. She might do it in clinic while we're waiting on lab work or whatever. She can log in and do these live lessons. So it's worked out a lot better. She is in a virtual school program. The goal is to get her through 4th grade. We'll probably do some tutoring through the summer to make sure she's really caught up with everything. And hopefully she can go back to school for 5th grade, back to her same school that she was at before. That's the goal. Patty Dog Mom is asking, when will Kendall get her feeding tube out for good? Will it be in time for spring break swims? No, it won't be. And the feeding tube, believe it or not, the G tube, the feeding tube, doesn't prevent her from swimming or doing any of those sorts of activities. So we really are in no rush to get the G tube out because it's continued to be a blessing. Up until recently, she hasn't really been eating much orally. She's had no appetite after that major surgery in New York. And without the feeding tube, it would have been bad news. So we're super thankful to have the feeding tube and really actually having that as an option, because we can continue to pump her with calories and nutrition and just keep her gut working and those sorts of things. Now, on the flip side of that, she has this double lumen Broviac, which are central lines, IV lines that are hanging out of her chest. And that's the one that is a problem. Those prevent her from swimming, taking baths and showers the way you normally. We have to wrap her all up, and it's a whole thing. We have to flush them every night. You got to keep them sterile. There's risk of infection and all kinds of things. That is the one that we can't wait to get out. Unfortunately, those aren't going to come out for a little while because we do have some treatments, and we'll talk about those in a minute, that she'll have to do, that they will need to use those for And honestly, we still like having the access to these exposed exterior IV lines, if you will. So nothing's coming out anytime soon, unfortunately. 4984 Wendy asks, will she need any more surgery? No, hopefully not. Hopefully surgeries are over. Realistically, she should have only ever got one surgery. And that's one of our probably biggest, I don't want to say regrets. It's not the right word, but it's, for lack of a better term, one of our biggest regrets was not going to New York to MSK for the initial surgery the first time. And it was very much a decision that was on the table, that we spent a lot of time making a decision, and we ended up making the best decision we could with the information we had at the time. Unfortunately, once the surgeon got in there, we discovered that like it was a far more complicated surgery and situation than anyone realized at the time. And that resulted in subsequent surgeries trying to attack this stuff and get it all out of there. So had we gone to New York to MSK for surgery the first time, that would have likely been the first and only surgery she's ever would have needed. So hopefully we don't need any more surgeries. Miss Roxanne Alexander asks if chemo is finally over. And yes, as you saw, I think in like two videos ago, that should have been her last chemo treatment she should need, unless the unfortunate event of like having a relapse and it coming back and that sort of thing. So like fingers crossed that's not the case, but she should be done with chemo at this point as well. And a lot of these questions that I'm asking, there's been like multiple people asking as I'm scrolling through this. I keep seeing some of these same things over and over. Emma McDonald 7924 says, as a parent of a child going through this, do you feel that this has changed you? I'm beyond honored to be able to see the struggles and victories of your beautiful. Thank you for always sharing. Yes, of course this has changed us. And it just changes your perspective on a lot of things and just life in general, like as cliche as that sounds. But, you know, things that used to upset us, we're really positive people to begin with. And there wasn't a lot that we used to get upset about, but things that we may have gotten upset about in the past are like such a non-issue anymore. And it really, if anything, it frustrates me more to see how other people act in the world with really stupid, petty things that just have no idea how good they have it, because they just don't have that perspective to understand how good they have it, right? So when people are complaining about, you know, they're so upset that their kid didn't make this soccer goal or something like that, my first thought is, you should just be grateful your kid is healthy enough to run around on the soccer field and has the chance to even miss the goal. If so, those are the types of things that it's like, my house is a mess right now. And I really don't care. I'm not bothered by it. It almost warms my heart. My kids are healthy enough and they're all here together to play and make a mess together. Like having a messy house right now is like awesome. I remember when she first got diagnosed and we were stuck in the hospital, that was one of the thoughts that went through my head was, man, I would do anything to have Kendall back home making a mess in her room and having fun and just being a healthy kid. So yeah, it's changed us. It's changed our perspective. It's changed the way we look at things. And I hope that we can like instill that perspective in other people. I think that they'd be much happier people and we'd have a happier world in general if people thought about things that way. K Kumar 193 asks, how did we choose which hospital Kendall would be treated at since there's so many good options? This one's tough. This is an interesting one. When she first got diagnosed, we were at our local emergency room. They did an x-ray because she had a tummy ache. Actually, I think that was a question here too, is how we found out she had cancer, and that's like a whole nother story. But essentially, they did an x-ray and they were like, hey, she has a huge cancer tumor coming off of her kidney. You need to get to a children's hospital immediately. Do you want to go to Savannah or Charleston? So we live in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Savannah is about an hour away. Charleston is about 2 hours away. So I made some phone calls before I made a decision to a bunch of people that I know in the healthcare industry to say, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And it was like almost everybody said that we should go to Charleston. So that's what we did. We ended up being transported via ambulance to Charleston, South Carolina to MUSC, which is a very well-known hospital in the state. And they have a children's hospital specifically. Now, the assumption when we got there is that she had Wilms tumor. And we didn't know anything about Wilms tumor. We start searching it. It seems to be like one of the more common solid tumors found in kids. And it's like a very curable thing. And it's very documented. And there's a process for it, whatever. It turned out that wasn't the case, and she ended up having neuroblastoma. Thankfully and fortunately, MUSC treats a ton of neuroblastoma. They have a neuroblastoma specialist who has a research lab for neuroblastoma and those sorts of things, and they're very familiar with it. Because MUSC does bone marrow transplants and stem cell transplants, and they're one of the I think the only hospital in the state that does that. There might be one more, but I think they're the only hospital in our state that does the transplants. And because transplant is sort of the normal protocol for neuroblastoma, they treat more of it in our area than anyone else. So the next best option maybe would be like Atlanta or something like that. The other option we had early on was, do we seek out treatment completely at MSK in New York? And as you can imagine, having a family and 2 other kids at home in South Carolina and trying to split ways between here and New York just was not practical. And I didn't think practicality mattered at all. And I told a number of people, like, I don't care. Like, I'll go to the other side of the world to do what I got to do if that's what we do for Kendall. And they were like, I hear you. That's great. But you have to be practical about it too, because if it's not sustainable, it all falls apart. That's not good for Kendall either. So anyways, it's not that we really had much of a choice, even though we clearly had a choice, but we felt very comfortable doing treatments where we were. Also, after talking to MSK in New York, thinking maybe that's what we wanted to do, because they treat like probably more of this than anyone in the world. Dr. Modak there said, don't come up here yet. There's no reason to come up here. You can do this treatment at home. The chemos and the things that they're going to do, at the beginning of all of this is exactly the same thing that we're going to do. So there's no reason to come up here. So that's really how all that shook out. And we're really happy with the decision we made, aside from that whole surgery thing. We got some questions to ask you, ma'am. You ready to answer some questions?
Yeah. If I can get down this ladder without dying.
Yeah, let's not do that. Okay, ma'am, let's start.
You're my footrest.
All right, while I find questions, do you have any good jokes for us today?
Yes. What do you call a duck and a cow?
What do you call the duck and a cow? I don't know.
Milk and quackers.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, we're going to do some rapid fire questions, okay? What is...
I don't know what that means.
It means we're going to answer them quickly.
Okay.
Okay? I am it 27 says, what's your favorite movie? You're amazing.
My favorite movie's in the future, but that's not what the movie's called. It's called The Return of the Thundermans. It comes out March 7th, and I already know it's my favorite movie. So...
Okay, well, okay, fair enough. Great question, or great answer. Like, I'm impressed with that. My favorite movie hasn't come out yet. But, what is your favorite movie you've ever seen, for real?
Annie.
Annie?
Yeah.
Classic. Music, fairy, art. Have you ever been to Spain? Which countries does Kendall want to visit? We've never been to Spain.
Never been to Spain. Yeah, I want to go to France. Oh yeah, Australia, of course, because it has all the animals, koalas, duh.
What are some of your favorite games at the Brody family game nights?
Uno, Monopoly, Trouble, Clue, and that's it.
Yeah, those are good ones. We do like to play all those. What is your dad's favorite joke? Time's up. I like all the jokes. Any joke from Kendall is my favorite joke. Oh, here's a good one. Marty Stang 1427 says, when you're feeling better, have you ever thought about donating time to visit other kids in the hospital that have cancer? it would help kids see that things do get better. Have you ever thought about like doing like the child life thing and go and play with other kids?
No, I've never thought about that.
Would you like to do that?
Yeah.
Think so? Tell them like it's all going to be good. Emma Morgan 7171 says, "Hi Kendall, when you're not being a rock star, which is like never, she's always a rock star, very busy doing that,
Yeah.
or an amazing artist, is there a subject at school that you really miss, and are you able to keep up with your schoolwork? Do you miss school at all?
Yes.
You miss
It's
seeing your...
much easier in person.
Yes. Is there a subject that you miss doing at school? What is it?
It's art and... Well, no, not art. Music and math.
Music and math? You don't miss art?
Well, I miss art, but, like, I changed my mind. It's music.
Kendall, you have a beautiful spirit and incredible bravery. I wondered if she has some sort of support outside of the family, like a therapist, peer support group, etc. Not particularly. No official therapist or anything like that. She has access to therapists at the hospital, which she really hasn't utilized. Do you ever feel like you need to talk to someone else about what's going on? The best support she has are her friends and family. Like, she has some really awesome friends, and she spends a lot of time with them, with FaceTime and playing games with them from the hospital. And like, her best friend Emmy in the whole world, I think, has been a huge part of helping her get through all this by being able to spend a lot of time playing with her on the tablet. What do you think? Do you agree with that? She has some other great friends too, but the devices, the tablets, the thing that people demonize so much is the thing that's gotten her through a lot of this.
And the stuff that's keeping me smart.
And the thing that keeps her smart. She learns so much. She watches so many educational videos, YouTube stuff. She's constantly like dropping bombs on me with all these facts and crazy weird information, and I fact check it, and she's totally right. Like, did you know that they don't put square windows on airplanes anymore because they break and round ones don't?
Yeah, like, it makes the airplanes, like, break apart for some reason.
The corners make the window weak and then it crack, and it was a problem. And they switched to round windows, and that's not a problem anymore. Kendall knew that. I didn't know that. Ooh, Blue Moon 2675. I would love a list of favorite things. Favorite food, favorite toys, favorite games, animals, music, TV, etc. Just anything Kendall would love to share. I'm also interested in how you keep up with schoolwork. Well, we've already talked about that. What are some of your favorite things? What's your favorite toy?
Can it be a stuffed animal?
Yep.
Liony.
Her stuffed animal. Your favorite food?
Crab legs.
Your favorite game?
Trouble.
Your favorite animal?
Dog.
Your favorite music?
Pop.
Who's your favorite artist?
Taylor Swift.
Favorite activities?
Rollerblading.
Nice. Okay. Zara Strong 3315 says, what does Kendall want to be when she grows up, and what is her favorite ice cream flavor?
What I want to be when I grow up is a zookeeper, and my favorite ice cream flavor is cookies and cream.
Good
Or
one.
cookie dough. Those two are my favorites.
Did you already say your favorite meal?
Crab legs.
Crab legs. Harley, 9056. Who's your Kendall? Who is your inspiration? You are mine, and so I thought I'd ask you who yours is. Always praying for you here in Georgia. You're amazing. Who is your inspiration?
You and Mommy.
I swear I didn't tell her to say that. Love you.
Love you.
321 cookies and smoothies. How beneficial have the therapist dogs and child life specialists been?
I love the puppies.
I love the puppies. There's so many questions. Pink Bunny 3856. Hi Kendall. Are you feeling better from surgery? You're so brave and courageous for all the things you've been through. You're so young. I hope you feel much better and wish you a happy life. Are you feeling better from surgery?
Yep.
She's great. Okay, and the next most popular question is, what's next? What is the next part of the plan for Kendall? And that is going to be radiation. We had to postpone. We already were supposed to be in New York once, but this whole hospital stay screwed that up. So we had to cancel that, reschedule, and we head up to New York next week to start the process of proton radiation. So she has to go do a simulation scan where they'll then program everything. They'll do a mold of her body, or like they have to make like a fixture to hold her in place because she has to do 14 treatments and she has to be in the exact same position every single time. So they'll do this little contraption that'll hold her laying in the exact same place. They'll scan her body so they can create the program for radiation, and then we'll go up a few weeks from now and we'll do the actual radiation treatments. The fun part though is that we're going to take all the girls with us this time. So because she just has to do this one simulation appointment, we'll take Cameron and Hannah with us, and we'll be in New York as a family doing a bunch of other really cool, fun stuff. So yeah, now you guys know what's going on, what happened, where we are now, what's coming up in the future. Thanks for all your questions. Thanks for watching and tuning in and getting all caught up. We appreciate it. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.